Listening closely, David MacCann, Sam McBride and Andre Murphy. Welcome to all of you. Sam, we covered a lot of ground there. How did Mrs Foster do in your opinion?
She could have done much worse. I've seen her do much worse in the past, so I think the DUP will not be entirely dissatisfied with that. However, there are elements of that which defy some logic. She talks about pay restraint in the last executive and in previous executives. This was a party and a coalition, the DUP and Sinn Féin, which massively hiked the pay for special advisors and put it up to £92,000. It roughly doubled for some of these people from the point at which Stormont was first instigated until when they left Stormont. There was no pay restraint for people who were handpicked by the DUP and Sinn Féin, and yet they're now saying that other people have to tighten their belts. That doesn't quite make sense, I think, to the person in the street.
Just before I move on to the others, did the DUP leader clarify, do you think, her party's position on Brexit and Boris Johnson's deal, whether it would back the Tories again if we end up with a hung parliament?
So the logic of the DUP position is that if Boris Johnson's deal is the only deal on the table and it creates some sort of quasi-border in the Irish Sea, they have to back Remain. If that is the only alternative, for some reason Mrs Foster cannot bring herself to say that, and it's difficult to understand why. Are they still thinking that the right of the Tory party are somehow going to come round to their way of thinking? Unless Boris Johnson has a disastrous election and needs the DUP for his support, he's not changing. He's made clear this is the deal, it's oven ready, and yet at this very late stage they're still clinging on to that, it seems. OK, Andre Murphy,
BBC News NI has a policy of being clear if any of our commentators have signed candidates' election papers. Just for the sake of transparency, you've signed Sinn Féin papers.
That's right.
Paul Maskey's in West Belfast. That's right. OK. How will non-unionists, do you think, assess what Arlene Foster's had to say tonight?
I think that they're going to be looking at that and kind of viewing where we see the DUP has a position in Westminster and has really focused on that there. After this election, their centre of influence is going to come back to Belfast. So they're going to be, and the north of Ireland, and they're going to be wondering, well, how does this fit into the potential or possibility for things moving forward, the reformation of an executive, and are things going to be changed? There was things in there that really would make you worry, where there was a sidestepping of responsibility for the previous executive decisions. There was a sidestepping of responsibility around Brexit and how that has worked itself out. And I think the convolution of words around an Irish Language Act at this stage, so far into the process, was quite disappointing. And people will be wondering, is that really something that will build the confidence that is needed in order for an executive to be reformed?
Because no sign of any softening of Arlene Foster's previously stated position on supporting an Irish Language Act.
No, and when you know that the DUP's hubris came to an end in 2017 in terms of the North. It's come to an end in terms of Westminster now. There has to be a different approach by the DUP in order for us to see progress. And when we don't see, when we can't get past any words, something like facilitating communication with public bodies rather than acknowledging the rights and the demands around Irish language and Irish citizenship, that is quite disappointing.
OK, David MacCann, let's talk about the numbers, some of the key seats again that you've been looking at for us. North Belfast and South Belfast are the two at the top of the pile.
Absolutely. So the problem that the DUP have, they have a structural problem in Belfast in that the unionist vote is declining in both constituencies. So when Nigel Dodds first won the seat, the unionist vote was around about 53%. In 2017, it's still, despite a rising unionist vote, it still dipped back to 46.2%. Same thing in South Belfast. 2005 was around about 51%. Now it's down to just 34.5%. And we're saying that when other parties are coalescing together to respond with kind of pacts or voting alliances, whatever you want to call them, you're saying pretty much now South Belfast is in grave difficulty for the DUP, and Nigel Dodds, their deputy leader, is at risk too.
Other seats that might be challenging, North Down, where Alex Easton would hope to succeed Lady Herman, and what about East Belfast?
Yeah, well, in North Down, the DUP would be the favourites to actually take the seat. So if you take a look at with the departure of Sylvia Herman, it's going to be really a battle between Alliance and the Ulster Unionists for second place. The DUP have had a pretty stable vote there of about 38%. So Alex Easton would be the favourite for that seat. In East Belfast, this is the really interesting thing. Gavin Robinson's up against Naomi Long, who's had the best year of any party leader, yet who's talking about him being defeated. He is the safest of the DUP MPs. And the reality of that is the reason why he is so safe is partly because, one, he is a very affable, he is largely someone who speaks across the piece, and he's not someone that people will find it hard to get motivated to vote against.
Sam, just very quickly, if you would, do you think there will be losses for the DUP?
I think there is going to be a loss, I think almost certainly in South Belfast. They've built that in privately to their calculations. They think they can make it up in North Down, but there's a very fine line between them coming back with 10 MPs and coming back with 7. There could be a small shift in the vote, could be very significant there.
OK, we'll leave it there for now. We'll speak to you all again a little bit later in the programme. Thank you for now.